July 13th, 1875. My dear Mother, we expect to reach Honolulu by the 25th of this month, so I will commence my letter as usual. We left Yokohama at 3 p.m. on the 16th of June, with the homeward bound pennant flying, and the band playing Home Sweet Home as we steamed past the...
The HMS Challenger left Yokohama on June 16, 1875, and Japan left the crew with a deep impression. In his letter to his mother on July 13th, Joseph Matkin wrote,
I can't say that I felt particularly lively as we lost sight of Mount Fujiyama and the coast of Japan. I was thinking how altered everything seemed since we sighted Japan on the 11th of April previous.
The moment the ship left, the country, the experiences and the images all became a memory that could only be recalled. Yet their experiences of Will Adams' tomb and the temple in Kobe unearthed copious amounts of historicity that rival the theme park history best embodied by Osaka Castle. Through finding and reaching these places and using the hybrid camera, I came into contact with a timeline into history that somehow connected me with the country and plugged me in. Like the torii gates that mark sacred ground, I found entry points into a world beyond the visual landscape, a floating world. In leaving Osaka and moving to Tokyo, I made a conscious decision to leave the Challenger's visual recordings behind and let go of how the landscape used to look. Of Tokyo, there were only written accounts and they were few and far between. The task it would seem would be for me to document Tokyo as Jesse Lay would have done, but using the hybrid camera, a device which has allowed me to reflect on the nature of photography and its future as a post-historical image, or what we would now refer to as a digital image. In 1989, Willem Sayer wrote, photographs are only the first of these post-historical images. In more recent examples of these images, for example, in synthetic images, the computation aspect is more clearly recognizable. But it is also apparent in photographs. In photographs, the calculation of dot elements, such as molecules in silver compounds, and the computation of these elements into images are also apparent. They are not actually surfaces, like the prehistoric and historical surfaces, but rather mosaics. Thus, to be more exact in speaking about photographs, we should not say imagination, but rather visualization. For imagination is the ability to step back from the environment and to create an image of it. In comparison, visualization refers to the ability to turn a swarm of possibilities into an image. Imagination is the consequence of abstraction from the environment. Visualization is the power to concretize an image from possibilities. Photographs are post-historical, because they concretize rather than abstract. Often, they have the appearance of copies, and are thus confused with them, but, structurally speaking, they are actually projects. The images that I have been visualizing are descendants of the Victorian attitude toward photography in that they share the same eye, the 130-year-old Dallmeyer lens. However, the modern brain, the digital SLR, which receives the image of this eye interprets far less and the result is a narrower point of view. A 28mm wide-angle lens is thus understood as an 80mm lens, and the act of seeing the whole picture is one of panning across the scene and therefore panning across the resulting image. The panoptical wider view is replaced by a hyper method of seeing, whereby the eye darts around the surface and communication between fragments of the scene is necessary to view the world as it once was. Each fragment of my visualizations of the landscape is a moment of a possibility, and the combination of all those possibilities, despite their apparent abstraction, make a grander picture of what is truthfully there. They show possibilities and they show the cracks, and it's somewhere between those cracks that the beauty of this landscape exists, that fleeting moment which separates each fragment or possibility. What is evident in my visualizations is the ever-blurring boundary between the language of photography and the language of video, and my practice continually seems to position itself, albeit in a slippery manner, between these two poles. Therefore, what remains to be explored in these works and the Japanese landscape is Verio's notion of real time, the sensibility of which is somehow present in the floating world of this landscape, and where moments are defined by their in and out points and somehow strung together. This is, however, something that can be maintained beyond this course as part of my continued professional practice. My focus now shifts to the final works that will be prepared for the final exhibition. These works will derive from the extended Challenger images and will continue to walk the line between the two currently acknowledged categories of photography and video, leaving an ambiguous aura around what they are. They therefore will be presented in a suitable space where they can be seen by their intended audience, and as the original Challenger images were intended for public viewing by the British public, so will mine. I will from now continue to develop an appropriate method for exhibiting these works, and having exhibited the revisited Challenger landscapes on digital photo frames, it may well be that I turn to the medium of projection in which to present visualizations of a fleeting essence and beauty of the landscape. But above all, for many people who can happily access typical images of Japan through the internet, these works will be an opportunity to see Japan visualized, rather than abstracted.